Welcome to another video. This is your instructor Armas Kung Fu from supersqa.com. In this video, we are going to talk about the role of a QA in a company. Okay, what the daily activities look like for a QA person. So testing plus more. So testing is the most obvious role, right? It's even in the name, software testing. So you do test the software. But in addition to that, there's a lot more responsibilities. So writing a test case is your responsibility. Documenting the test case is your responsibility. And in some cases, deciding, exploring, researching tools. Since the field is huge, right, there's a lot going on and it's super important role. There are a lot of tools. There are a lot of tools built for this process. And sometimes you have to make a decision on which tool to use for your application. A lot of times, if you're joining a company that's pretty established, they already have the tools. If you're joining like a startup, you might have to explore on the available tools and decide. And also, even if it's established, tools change and newer, better things come out all the time. And so you do need to do research. Okay, so that's some of the things you do as a QA. And a lot of times, when you're testing, you're also trying to think of a way to use the product in an unintended way, right? The developer, the product people, they created it so users can use it in a certain way. And you're always trying to think of what if they use it in a different way, right? If they're supposed to push something, what if they pull it instead, right? So you always have to think about how a user can break it or use it in an intended way, and does the software handle that properly? All right. Additional to that, you manage releases. Okay, so what a release is, it's a process of releasing the software into the public. So you have your own environment. You have a copy. When I say environment, it's like there's a copy of the software running that the general public cannot access. And when it's tested and when it's good to go, then you release it. You push the code to production. Right? So that process is usually managed by QA. Since the QA is the one that's testing it and approving that is good to go, the process can be also managed by the QA. It's a major part of your job. And releases happen frequently. A lot of different companies do it differently, but like 2 weeks is the smallest I know. I mean, the biggest, I guess, the longest. And some people release every week. It's possible to release every day. There's a process called CDCI, continuous delivery or continuous CDCI. Basically, it's continuous. Like the change happens and it goes out right away. It just gets tested and goes out right away. It doesn't have to wait 2 weeks. So it's a frequent process. So it's a very important process. You know that because a lot of times applications change and we don't even know they change, right? So let's say you use Facebook. You see a lot of things change with Facebook, the layout, the way things work, a lot of things change, but Facebook is never down, like, right? They never take Facebook down because they're going to make a change. It's a fluid process. It's always happening. And that's because the process allows it to, and the QA person usually manages that process. Imagine how many people are working on a project at the same time, right? So there needs to be a lot of coordination because a code engineer A worked on can affect the code engineer B worked on, or they can depend on each other, right? So there's a whole lot of coordination that's happening, and a lot of times the QA person or the testing team is responsible to work on those coordination. So I think you can see how important of a role the QA actually plays, right? QA communicates with a third party. So when you're working with a company and you working on a product, there might be integration with third-party software or third-party companies, and the QA person usually be in the middle, communicating between the two, which is an important role. A QA person is involved in hiring process. When we hire engineers, I'm definitely in the middle of the process, interviewing people, and I definitely have a voice. Hackathons, you can always participate in hackathons. You write scripts, production scripts, right? A lot of times the work we do as a QA, the testing, it happens in a test environment. Like I said, it's basically a copy of the software running outside of the public. But sometimes you actually contribute to code that's actually running in production. I do that a lot actually, because I script, right? I write code. So I don't work on the main application, but there's a lot of scripts that run in the background and do different things. And since I'm part of the team, I help out whenever there is a need for it. I do help out with my skills of writing code. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting to see your code in production, millions of people looking at it, millions of people using it. So that is very interesting to me. So that's what the role, in a nutshell, the role of a QA looks like.